Now, with the way things are at the moment with the cost of living crisis, we're all watching them pennies at the moment, and we really are feeling the crunch. The price of everything only seems to be going in one direction, and that is up. Everything is going up in price. That includes fresh produce as well. The cost of fresh produce has gone crazy. And with that, you may be wanting to grow your own food this year in 2025 to save a little bit of money on your weekly shop. So I've made a list here of 10 of the easiest fruits and vegetables to grow yourself at home that are expensive to buy in the supermarket. So hopefully you can save a little bit of money this year by growing them yourself. Before we get into the video, I'd just like to say, if you find this video useful and informative, remember to hit that like button. It really does help out a lot, and it helps me reach more people as well. So with all that being said, let's get into my list of 10 fruits and vegetables that are easy to grow but expensive to buy at the supermarket. Now, the first thing on our list of money saving vegetables that you can grow at home is salad crops. We've got loads of different salad leaves here, which will save us quite a bit of money to grow ourselves. We've got this economical packet of leaves, which has red leaf types, butterhead, cos, crisp head types, and loads of different types of lettuce in there. That's a good mixed packet. But I'm also talking about things like rocket and mustard, mizuna, even spinach. All these things are relatively easy to grow yourself at home, but can cost quite a lot of money to buy at the supermarket because they have to factor in things like the farmer growing and picking the salad leaves and then washing them and then packaging them, shipping them off to the supermarkets, and then the supermarkets have to handle them as well, and they don't have a very long shelf life. A packet of lettuce seeds is going to set you back like £1 to £2. Not very much, and you get hundreds and hundreds of seeds per packet as well, which means hundreds of plants. And they're very easy to grow, take up a very little space. In fact, you might find that you end up with too much lettuce. It really is worth growing lettuce at home, and you can be starting these off in February now as well. Now, the second thing on our list is something that I love to grow, and that is tomatoes. Tomatoes are quite a big money saver, especially if you think about saving your own seeds each year as well from them heritage varieties. You can't save seeds from hybrids, or you can, but they're not going to grow true to the tomato that you picked the seed from. It might not have the same growth habit, and you might end up with something a little bit different. But if you're growing heritage varieties, you can save your seeds from these each year and grow them again. So it's not going to cost you anything for seeds, and the cost of tomatoes has gone up pretty significantly as well, I've found. A packet of tomatoes is going to set you back a good couple of quid, and for the amount of tomatoes you can get from one plant, you're going to be saving quite a bit of money. Now, you're spoilt for choice when it comes to the types of tomatoes you can grow. There are thousands of different varieties of tomato out there. You can grow just your standard salad tomatoes. You can grow some lovely cherry tomatoes. These varieties are called Cocktail Crush and Sun Gold, by the way. Two lovely varieties. I highly recommend Sun Gold. They are brilliant, really, really sweet. But if you don't want to go with the traditional types or the F1 hybrids, heritage varieties are well worth growing. You've got all sorts of different colours. You've got your yellow ones, your orange ones, black, green, pink, purple, pretty much any colour you can imagine, even white. There are loads of different colours, shapes, flavours available out there, and I'd highly recommend trying heritage tomatoes. It's just not viable for supermarkets to be stocking heritage tomatoes on the shelves because they don't have a very good shelf life. The plants which you grow the heritage varieties from aren't very disease resistant like the hybrids are, and that is why most of the tomatoes that you have on the supermarket shelves are generally hybrids, and they are bred to perform better and be disease resistant, be more productive and have a better shelf life. But for us small growers, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we've got these heritage varieties of tomato that can get diseases easier and don't last as long because they're softer. That's okay because we're growing on a small scale here. So the next thing on our list, which can save you quite a bit of money, is beans. Whether it be runner beans or French beans. a bit too early to start these yet. I'm going to start these in April, but grow these in 2025 if you love your beans and you want to save a bit of money, because they can be incredibly productive. These beans can, and you can save your own seeds as well, like with tomatoes. A packet of beans can cost a good £1 to £2 per packet, and you don't get that many beans per pack either, so it's possible to get a good few packs of beans just from one plant alone. So these are well worth growing in my opinion. And in case you're wondering, the variety of French bean that I've got here is a climbing type, and it is called Cobra. A really productive variety. It's going to give a glut of beans, but I will freeze them to use them later. Now, the fourth thing on our list of money-saving crops to grow is the courgette. Now, the courgette is very well known for being very productive and giving you an absolute bombardment of courgettes over the summer. You only need a couple of plants to feed a family of 4, and they are best picked regularly, and they're best picked when they're smaller as well. A courgette can go from this size to an absolute gigantic thing in a matter of a couple of days. It really is crazy. Courgettes aren't all that expensive to buy from the supermarkets, to be honest, but for the sheer amount of courgettes you get from one plant, it's well worth growing. In fact, you'll probably find that you're giving courgettes away to your neighbour, your neighbour's best friend, your neighbour's best friend's cat and dog, your neighbour's best friend's uncle, the vicar, pretty much any person you can think of. You're going to be wanting to get rid of these courgettes because they're going to be so productive. This packet of courgette seeds costs £2, and there's 25 seeds per pack. So that's 25 courgette plants potentially, and each one of them 25 plants could give us 4 or 5 courgettes per week over the summer period if we pick them regularly. So yeah, if you do some simple maths, yeah, you can end up with a heck of a lot of courgettes. Trust me, I learnt the hard way growing courgettes. I planted too many one year and I had so many of them, I just didn't know what to do with them. I was giving them away to everyone. So yeah, number 4, money saving crops, courgettes, because you get so many of them from each plant. Now the next thing on our list is peppers. We eat a lot of peppers. We enjoy them in fajitas, spaghetti bolognese, curries, in salads. There are loads of things which we use peppers for, and they can be quite expensive to buy as well. And a packet of seeds, it's going to set you back a couple of quid, and this packet here has 25 seeds in it. This variety is called New Ace. I've also got Fiesta as well, by the way, yellow one. And each plant, given the right conditions, can give us about 5 to 10 fruits each, roughly. And peppers are relatively easy to grow if you've got a polytunnel or a greenhouse. They can be grown outside, but they're going to do much better in a greenhouse. And if you give them plenty of organic matter, compost, if you give them a feed every single week, like a seaweed feed, like Tomarite, for example, they'll produce a good crop for you. So yeah, peppers, relatively expensive to buy in the shops, but pretty easy to grow yourself at home given the right conditions and if you give them the things that they need. Now the next thing on our list is strawberries. And yes, strawberries are relatively cheap when they're in season. They are much cheaper in the spring and summer than what they are in the winter. But I found that even in the summer they can still cost you a couple of quid per punnet. And given the sheer amount of strawberries that you can get from each plant, you can get like 1.5 to 2 punnets per plant in a growing season. It's well worth growing them yourself to save a bit of money. And when you consider that you can also save your own runners from the strawberries as well to plant, so you always have strawberry plants, you can really multiply how many strawberry plants you have by saving runners, which means you never have to buy strawberry plants again if you do it correctly. And you can also stagger your strawberry crops as well. You can get some varieties that fruit early in the spring, and you can get some varieties that fruit later on in the summer as well, and you can get varieties that fruit throughout the growing season, so you can get a steady crop, and these are called ever-bearing strawberries. And if you have a greenhouse or a polytunnel, you can plant some of these in hanging baskets in there as well if you want to achieve a crop even earlier. I've had strawberries in the polytunnel mid-May before now, and I've still got strawberries in there now in hanging baskets. I'll get a crop around mid-May, and then when they're finished, I'll get a crop about a month later in June outside. And if you've got some later fruiting ones, which I have here, I'm planting some more strawberries this year, you can really have a good crop throughout the entire growing season. And if you've got too many strawberries, you can make jams, you can freeze them and then add them to yogurts later on if you want. That's what I do. I like to add strawberries that are frozen to my yogurts, and they're relatively easy to grow as well, like the other things on this list. Strawberries don't require too much effort, to be honest. A good nutrient rich, well draining soil with plenty of sunlight, pretty much standard requirements for most plants. That is what strawberries require, but the well draining part is quite important because they do like a well draining soil. Now, fresh herbs can cost a significant amount of money in the supermarkets, but they are relatively easy to grow yourself. A pack of fresh herbs can cost around £1 in the supermarket, but you don't get that much in a packet really. And it's herbs like basil, parsley, coriander, chives, mint, tarragon, just to name a few things. These herbs are relatively easy to grow yourself. Some of them are perennials, so they can provide you with a crop year after year after year, like the mint, the tarragon, and the chives as well. Chives are a very productive one, and they continue to give a crop year after year. I'm not talking about the dried herbs as well. They're very cheap, but herbs lose their flavour when they're dried. The fresh herbs are so much better than the dried ones, so they're well worth growing in my opinion. They really do add flavour to many different dishes. Start some of these off at home on a bright windowsill now. Start the basil, the coriander and the parsley off somewhere nice and warm and bright at home, and then move them down to your greenhouse or outside in your beds after your last frost date. Your sweet basil is a really good companion plant for tomatoes as well. They're not just good to grow together though, but they're also good culinary wise as well. They're really good in cooking. Now, the next thing on our list isn't a seed as such, or you can grow them from seed, but they're often grown from crowns because they can take quite a long time to grow from seed, and that is asparagus. Asparagus can be grown from seed, in which case it will take around 4 or 5 years before you see your first crop. Or they can be grown from crowns, which are plants that have already been established and they've already grown for a couple of years before you get them. And if you grow them from crowns, it's going to take you about 3 years before you have your first crop. And they are well worth the wait, I'll tell you that now. It's well worth the 3 years waiting for them because they really are a special crop. They are absolutely delicious as well, and the plants are really productive once they get growing, and once you start picking them, they'll provide a crop for up to 20 years. And asparagus is pretty expensive to buy in the supermarket as well. It can cost you a few quid per packet. And a packet of asparagus usually isn't that big either. The most important thing to consider when you're growing an asparagus is you've got a nice sunny location and you've got a bed that has lots of really good drainage. I've grown them in raised beds, and plenty of organic matter is important as well. So sunny location, a very well draining soil, because asparagus can be prone to rotting if it is too wet in there, if it gets too waterlogged, and plenty of organic matter as well. So asparagus is one that you might want to consider starting in the 2025 growing season to harvest after a few years. But I'm telling you now, for 20 years worth of asparagus, it's going to definitely pay off in dividends, I can tell you that now. Now, the next one on our list is potatoes. Potatoes have gone up in price quite significantly over the last few years. I've found that they are starting to creep up in price quite a lot. And they're really easy to grow yourself as well. Potatoes can literally be thrown in the ground and left, and they'll produce a crop just fine. They are easy to grow even in shaded areas as well. If you've not got a garden that gets loads of sun, you can still grow potatoes just fine. If your ground's heavy clay, you can get away with growing potatoes as well, so long as it doesn't get waterlogged. And in fact, they can help break up heavy clay soils as well, potatoes. They are super easy to grow. And you can even save your own seed potatoes each year as well. And you can grow those sprouted potatoes potatoes from the supermarket as well. They're not going to be certified disease-resistant potatoes, but they can still produce a pretty decent crop. I've planted sprouted shop-bought potatoes in the past, and they've given us a crop just fine without any issues. And I've got some of my potatoes here which I'm going to lay out to chit. You can start buying potatoes from your garden centre in February and March and lay them out to chit, or produce sprouts before you plant them. This is usually done about 6 weeks before you plant them. Stick them in trays or in egg cartons in a location that gets some natural light but not direct sunlight. So potatoes are really easy to crop to grow, a staple crop in my opinion, and they're just so much better than the quality of them that you get in the supermarket. The potatoes which you get in the supermarket usually have already been stored in a warehouse for a year already, and especially lately when I've been peeling shop-bought potatoes, they've just got loads of black bits in them and they're just not very nice. But honestly, when you grow your own potatoes, you'll find that they're so much cleaner and taste so much better, and you've got so many varieties that you can try as well. Now, the last thing on our list of 10 fruits and vegetables that you can plant in 2025 to save a bit of money is your fruit trees and your fruit bushes as well. I know we touched on strawberries before, but I'm talking about things like your apple trees, your plum trees, pears, your fruit bushes like your raspberries, your blackcurrants, your blueberries, your gooseberries and things like that. Because there's a lot of labour involved when the farmers are growing and picking them and packaging them and sending them off to the supermarket, they can cost a fair bit of money. A packet of blackberries, for example, have you checked how much a packet of blackberries is in the supermarket? It's a good £2 or £3 for a small quantity of blackberries, and given the sheer amount you get from a blackberry bush, it's just well worth growing your own, and they'll provide a crop for many years to come as well. I'd recommend getting a thornless variety as well, which I have, so you're not going to rip your hands to pieces when you're picking your blackberries. But raspberries as well. Raspberries can be super expensive to buy as well, and I know that frozen ones are much cheaper, but they don't taste anywhere near as good as the fresh ones, and relatively easy to grow, productive for many, many years. And things like apples. How expensive are apples at the moment? A decent pack of 6 apples can cost you a good £2 or £3 as well. It really is crazy how expensive they've become. And also rhubarb as well. Rhubarb is ridiculously easy to grow, given that you've got good drainage and plenty of organic matter added to the soil. And have you checked how much rhubarb is as well? A few stalks of rhubarb in the supermarket is a good £3 or £4 as well at the moment. And one rhubarb crown can give you loads and loads of rhubarb just in one season. You do have to let it establish for a year or two first, but my rhubarb patch, which has 4 or 5 plants in it, gives us loads of rhubarb every single year. We're picking massive bunches of it every week. It really is crazy how it can be so expensive in the supermarket. And for minimal effort, you can grow these yourself and save a bit of money. We really like rhubarb, and we found that we end up with too much of it. And it's like £3 or £4 per packet in the supermarket. It is crazy. So that was my list of 10 fruits and vegetables which you can grow in 2025 to hopefully save you a bit of money. They're relatively easy to grow, but expensive to buy in the supermarkets. Are you going to be growing any of these in 2025? Do let me know in the comments below. And if you think there's anything else I've missed in this list, if there's any other vegetables which you think are easy to grow but expensive to buy, do let me know in the comments below. So that's all for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one. Happy gardening and stay safe.